And we are off, so fantastic. Right, so thank you very much and welcome everyone who can come along tonight for our Year 11 into 2025 subject selection evening. It will be a great evening. It's an opportunity for you to talk to teachers. There will be a lot of information that also comes across to you. That information is also going to be readily available in the guides that are available to you already. However, before we get started, I'd like to welcome our academic prefect, Tyler, who is going to say a few words of welcome.
Sorry. Good afternoon all, and welcome to the 2025 Senior Subject Selection Evening. We hold this tonight to share with you some insight into the workings of the senior curriculum and to assist you as best we can with deciding your senior subjects. Please take this opportunity to inform yourselves about each subject and the way in which these align with possible future pathways. Make sure to consider the advice and knowledge shared with you by our dedicated staff here this evening and use their guidance and experience to assist you in selecting the subjects which best suit your interests, skill level, and your long-term goals. However, it is important to remember that while this decision may feel like a huge commitment or deciding your entire future, it is not so. More often than not, minds change, and they may change again, and even once more. So don't stress about picking the correct subjects or locking yourselves into a single path. Keep your options open or consider a balanced subject range. If, like me 2 years ago, you have no idea what you want to do, choose based on what you enjoy doing. You will most definitely thank yourselves for that later. And know that when the time comes, if your subjects happen to not align with your desired career path, there is always another route to get there. Senior school will look different for all of you. So don't be afraid to also explore other vocational pathways offered by the school. There are a few other senior students here tonight, so don't be afraid to ask questions, whether that be about ATAR subjects, the TAFE or CERT work which they do, or the balance between school and extracurriculars. There are many people within the school that can and want to help you as best we can. Remember, girls, while making choices can be challenging, tonight is not about making any commitments. It is about exploring new opportunities and expanding your perspectives. So take your time and be thoughtful in helping yourselves to make an informed decision. Thank you, girls.
Thank you, Tyler, and those words are very well said. Tonight is all about making the right choices for you based upon where you sit at this point in time, keeping in mind that there are a lot of different pathways and there are a lot of different ways to get where you want to go. And if you're not sure where you want to go, that's also perfectly normal, and it's around about making as many options available to you and leaving those decisions open as long as you possibly can. So tonight, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to have a bit of a look at our QCE system, about ATARs. We're going to have a look at our own curriculum here at the school and how you go about choosing the curriculum for yourselves over the next few years. We're going to come across a few different organisations which are really important over the next few years. Many of you will already know them, particularly parents if you've had children go through the senior system already. Now, the first of those is QCAA, which is the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority. They are a statutory body in Queensland who basically, for our purposes, it's really important that they are the guys who award the QCE, Queensland Institute of Education. Now, that's the qualification that we aim for our students to leave Year 12 with. It is essentially Queensland secondary schooling qualification. And it provides a verified evidence that you are at the level of a graduating Year 12 student. To get that Queensland Institute of Education, you need to achieve 20 credits over the 2 years of Year 11 and 12. You can get those from a variety of different places. They're from QCAA General and Applied subjects, and we'll go through what those mean. Through VETIS qualifications at a Cert 2 or higher, so a Cert 1 would not contribute. So VETIS is vocational education training in schools. From university courses, and we've got some representatives here tonight to be able to talk to you from several universities. And other recognised studies, and I've just put a random one down there, but AMEB, grade 4 and above, will also contribute points towards your QCE. So you also, in Year 10, have been studying literacy and you've been studying career education. Both of those also successfully, upon successful completion, will give you credit towards that QCE. In addition to getting that 20 points, you need to do it in a particular way, and that is to get 12 of those credits from core study. Core studies can come from your QCAA subjects, a minimum of those with a pass with 4 credits each. You can get them from Cert 2 qualifications, which would be up to 4 credits and mostly would be 4 credits. Cert 3 and Cert 4 qualifications, you can get up to 8 credits, and school-based apprenticeships up to 6 credits, which might seem a little unusual because an apprenticeship is quite possibly a higher level of learning, but the reality is that because it's an apprenticeship, you won't finish it while you're still at school and you'd need to continue after, so you'd have a partial completion by the time you finish school, and those other qualifications you can still achieve completion by the time you leave grade 12. You also need to satisfy literacy and numeracy requirements, and that's quite easily done by passing an English and a Maths in Unit 1, Unit 2, or Unit 3, 4, which go together as a pair. So essentially you'll do that by passing your subjects. The other organisation which is going to be important is QTAC, which is the Queensland Tertiary Admission Centre. Again, they're a not-for-profit company that are funded by the universities, and the 2 main things that they will do for students who wish to go to university is they will calculate your ATAR, and they also administer that tertiary entrance for the majority of universities. We have Baden here from Bond, who will have slightly different processes around most of their degrees, but if again you have a chat to Baden, he'll be able to tell you all about those. So what is an ATAR? Well, it's exactly what it says. It's a tertiary admissions rank and is now used across all states and territories in Australia. It's really important to know that its sole use is to determine an academic ranking for university entrance. So if you don't wish to attend university, you don't need an ATAR. Okay? It is a rank that basically is putting you in an overall percentile about your academic achievements compared to others. And there's actually a 2,000 point scale for that ATAR. The highest is 99.95, and it goes all the way down to 0 in increments of 0.05. In your certification, if you are 30 or below the 30 mark, then it just comes to you as reported as 30 or less. To qualify for an ATAR, it's similar to how you qualify for a QCE, but there are differences. Essentially, you can do it through 5 general subjects, or you can do it through 4 general subjects, and the 5th option being an applied or an applied essential subject, or a VET course that's at a Cert 3 or above. Really important to note for an ATAR that Unit 1 and 2, which is terms 1, 2 and 3 of Year 11, do not contribute to the ATAR. It's only Units 3 and 4, which is essentially the Year 12 work. It's also important to note that with your applied and applied essential subjects, they will generally scale lower, and we'll talk a little bit about scaling. And generally, VET qualifications also scale lower compared to general subjects. Now, depending upon what you're looking to do, that might be an issue or it might not be an issue. It's a matter of having all the knowledge there when you're thinking about those things. So again, if you're choosing, say for example, English, you cannot also include applied English or essential English, not applied subject, the applied English, which is essential English, in both, and have both of those contribute towards your ATAR. However, you can do it in the general subjects. So for example, if you love English, you can do English as well as English and Literature Extension and have both of those contribute towards your ATAR. Same with Math Methods and Specialist Maths. There's also some information that's really, really important about English in particular as a subject. And to receive an ATAR, you must receive a C or better in English. Now that can be either of our Englishes that we offer, so essential or general, in Unit 3 and 4. So if you're struggling with English, then you need to give real consideration to whether English general or essential English would be the right choice, because the pass is really, really important if you're wanting to get that ATAR. However, having said that, they will take your best 5 subjects, and English does not have to be one of the ones that contribute to it. So if you are not a specialist in English and you love the maths and sciences, and English is an area of relative weakness for you, it doesn't have to count towards that ATAR. Really important to note though that even though it's not necessarily going to contribute to your ATAR, and for a lot of courses that it isn't going to be a requirement, for more than any other subject it would be a prerequisite for university courses. Now girls, this afternoon I've emailed you the Year 10 QTAC guide, which I'll be looking at with you tomorrow, and making sure that if you've got particular university degrees that you know that you want to do or you might be interested in, that we'll be looking at, okay, what subjects do you need to have to do in order to get into that degree. So I did mention scaling for ATARs just before, and essentially not all subjects are of equal difficulty in terms of the academics, and ATAR is an academic ranking, so it's important that the subjects that are harder get a scaling benefit from those, okay? Now the way they do that is they don't predetermine which subjects are harder than others, because it could change with each cohort. What they'll do at the end of Year 12, they'll have a look at everyone's results and how they correlate, and from that they will determine which subjects would be the most difficult to achieve the highest grades in, and hence which ones would get the highest benefit. So this is an example, and it's a very simplified example, but it makes it pretty easy to see how it works. So math methods and general maths are our two main mathematical subjects. Mathematical methods is typically thought to be the more difficult one. It's the one with the higher calculus and so on in it. So in this example, we have a student who has studied that math methods and scored 65 out of 100. So for each subject, you'll get a score out of 100. For each general subject, you'll get a score out of 100 by the time you exit. Now, if she had done general maths, then she may have scored 75 out of 100 because it's actually, for most people, an easier subject to achieve in. So in that process of scaling, what might have happened is that her math methods might have been scaled up to 70 out of 100. That general maths may have scaled down to 70 out of 100. So depending upon her ability, both subjects, one scales down, one scales up, and she ends up with the same result regardless of which subject she did. That's the whole point around scaling, is to make it fair and to make the results that you get true to your ability regardless of the subject you choose. So with certificate courses, as we said, ATAR can contribute towards, certificate courses can contribute towards ATAR. What I can tell you is that all certs at the same level will scale the same. So it doesn't actually matter the content that you do. So a Cert 3 in childcare or a Cert 3 in visual art will have the same scaling. Generally, as I mentioned earlier, a Cert qualification for ATAR would scale lower than most general subjects. I can also say that the higher the level of the Cert, the higher it would scale. So a Cert 4 will scale higher than a Cert 3. And a minimum of a Cert 3 for an ATAR. Remember, it's a minimum of a Cert 2 to contribute towards the QCE, a minimum of a Cert 3 to contribute towards an ATAR. Also, if you do a certificate qualification, for some universities that will actually allow you direct entry into particular courses as well. So it bypasses that ATAR pathway, and indeed for most universities there are multiple ways to get entrance to a university. What I will say is that generally you would need to be doing a Cert 4 as the minimum requirement for a direct entry, but each university have their own rules about those. There is no generalised across all universities, so you need to be very careful in looking at that. And indeed, I can help you with those things. So our curriculum, they're our offerings over the next few years. So what we do offer here are general and applied subjects. You can do those VETA certificate courses, you can do school-based traineeships, you can do school-based apprenticeships, you can do university courses, and you can do those other recognised studies such as AMEB and have them contribute towards your senior qualifications. For the general and applied subjects, which again is still the majority of our students, will just choose general and applied subjects. The ratio of students choosing other options is increasing, but there's still a majority will do subjects. We have 19 general subjects. We have 3 general extension subjects, which are in the areas of music and English. And again, you need to be doing the base subject for those. So to do the music extension, clearly you need to be doing music as a base. And again, because they're extension subjects, they're only Unit 3 and 4, which is the Year 12 only. And we are offering applied subjects, including fashion, which is a new subject this year, next year. As always, if there are very small numbers of enrolments, there's no guarantee that we can go ahead with subjects. If we have a number of 1, 2, 3 students, it just becomes unviable to do so. So part of the process is getting all that information back, and for some students it might mean reviewing choices again. So some points to consider around those general and applied subjects. So they are developmental. So they start at Unit 1, go to Unit 2, Unit 3 and Unit 4. We have some subjects which might be considered to be alternate sequence, and they might go Unit 3, 4 and then 1, 2. That's still up in the air a little bit. Now, while we say there are always possibilities and you can make changes, that's absolutely true, but what we want to do is try and get it as right as we possibly can from the start. If you do a subject change, it's just going to be more difficult than if you didn't, essentially. Also looking, as always, to make sure that you have a balance in your life. So school studies are important, but they're not the only thing that's important. So having time with family, having work commitments, keeping a balance, making sure you're doing sport, making sure you've got that balance in all of your life is important. But over the next couple of years, academics is really ramping up, and it will be important that you do provide enough time in your studies to make sure that you're keeping up. Also have a look at the minimum suggested entry for the different subjects. So, for example, if you are achieving a C in your general mathematics, wanting to choose mathematical methods in Year 11 would probably be a very difficult choice for you to make. It would make it very difficult for you to succeed without a huge amount of work. So the last thing I'm saying there is be aspirational, look for what you want to do, but keep realistic about it as well. Okay. So with general subjects in particular, with assessment, we have 3 internal assessments in Unit 3 and 4, and we have 1 external examinations across that Unit 3 and 4 as well. So external examinations get a lot of rap about them, I suppose, so it's important to know what they are. So for our science subjects and mathematics subjects, the external exam at the end of Year 12 is worth 50% of your overall grade, and it's based upon Units 3 and 4, which is essentially a year's worth of work. For the art subjects, they are 25% weighting, and they're based upon, again, Unit 3 and 4, so a whole year's worth of work. All other subjects have a weighting of 25% and are based only on Unit 4, so half of a year's worth of work. When you get to your external exams, you will know your internal results. So for a subject such as just randomly picking business, business has an external exam of 25%, so you would know 75% of your subject already by the time you get to your external examinations, which is a really great thing for you to be able to do, so you know where you're sitting already. We also do mock exams, so Year 12s will be getting ready to do those at the end of this term. That's when we hold them. We have a preparation program where the students will then come back, look for those gaps they still need to fill before we go into the exams proper. For our applied subjects, it's similar. You do, however, still 4 assessments across Units 3 and 4, but they're all internal. One of them is written externally by the QCAA, but we still administer it internally. So it's a little bit different in terms of there is no external exam for those applied subjects. For the vocational certificate courses, essentially you would study for that through an external RTO. So that might be Central Queensland University quite often. There is no paid employment with that course. Generally, that would take one of your subject options. So you would do one less subject and in its place you would choose the cert. You do get some funding for those courses, but you get one lot of funding. So if you do a certificate course that is funded by the government, the next time you want to do one, then you may well have a fee involved with it, and they're competency based. So you're either competent or not competent for each unit that you're doing. I can see Warren is here. Warren will be able to talk to you about anything to do with the next two, which are the traineeships and apprenticeships. There are some new rules that have come in this month, so it'd be great to have a catch up with him. So with the traineeship, it's very similar to the cert qualification because that's what you end up with, a certificate level qualification. It doesn't involve paid employment, so it's a contract and there's a process in terms of how you go about that sign-up process. Usually that's 1 day a week. It depends upon what the traineeship is in. So for example, agriculture, typically that's done more during the holiday periods because the travel to and from the workplace is too much to do in a day. Again, typically one school subject less, and again, competency-based. For a school-based apprenticeship, again, very similar to the traineeship, except you end up with a trade qualification, but because of the length of the apprenticeship compared to the traineeship, it's usually not completed by the time you leave school. Again, paid employment, contracts, one less subject at school, and again, competency-based. For universities, so CQ University has Sun, JCU has JCU Now, and they actually provide a wealth of additional opportunities, particularly if you know what it is that you want to do at university. You can get started on it straight away. If you complete those courses successfully, depending upon what they are, they may provide automatic entry into the relevant degree, which takes a load off having less worry about things like ATAR. Other universities such as UQ have their enhanced studies program, but the offerings are a lot more limited and are based in, for example, in Brisbane, and so there are very few online options available to students from a place like Rockhampton. Okay, so how do you go about selecting what it is that you want to do over the next 2 years? Well, that will depend upon where you want to go, and there's really 3 things that I want you to think about in terms of where you want to go after school, because your subjects must lead to one of these 3 things. That's either to employment, to vocational study, or to university. That's really what we're setting you up for, one of those 3 things. For that non-university, so for employment or vocational studies, then what do you need to do? You can choose applied subjects, you can choose general subjects. You can choose certificate courses, you can choose apprenticeships, traineeships. You just need to ensure that you're going to be eligible for your Queensland Certificate of Education. Clearly that's part of what we do as a school, track that to make sure that everyone's on track for what they want to do. If you want to go down that university pathway, once again, same thing. You need to ensure that you're going to be eligible for your QCE, but you also have that extra step of making sure that you're going to be eligible for your ATAR. You need to have a look through that Year 10 guide that I've emailed to you about prerequisites for university courses. If you're after a really highly competitive course, such as medicine, that's still probably the most competitive course to try and get into, then you really need to be very careful about the subject scaling and so on, because for the really high, so the high 90s, those subject choices can have more of an influence. And also be aware that some courses will have extra requirements as well as just your academic requirements. So in terms of medicine and dentistry and so on, you would need to potentially sit, depending upon the university, UCAT. But if you're in that art space, that performing art space, and you're looking to get into, for example, musical theatre, you would need to have auditions done. If you're looking into that fashion industry, you would need to have portfolios of work done. And then, of course, those are things that you can't just do overnight. You need to be preparing for those well in advance. So back to the start and what Tyler was talking about. So what really, in terms of your subjects and the choices that you're making, the things that you have ability in, the things that are relevant to what you want to do after school, things that are consistent with who you are as a person, and the things that you think that you are going to enjoy. Do those things and it's going to lead you to the right place. Okay? The last thing someone should do is subjects that they don't like because they think they should. Essentially, you are going to end up in a career path that you won't enjoy, because if you're doing subjects at school that you don't enjoy, you'll end in the wrong direction. So choose the things that you like that will lead you to where you want to go. And occasionally there might be an exception to that. So the curriculum handbook has been emailed out. It's also on our website. Have the discussions today with your teachers. Your parents are here to talk with you as well. You need to choose a core English subject, a core math subject. Choose 4 other options, which can include those cert studies, traineeships, apprenticeships. And then, because we use this information to start writing the timetable, I ask you to choose some reserve options in case we can't fulfil all of your requests. So tomorrow you're heading off to year camp, and so am I. And at that camp, I'm going to be running through your selections with you. So I'm going to take those selections with me from the camp. We're then going to scan those and send them out to your parents and ask you to be having those conversations as a family and have the completed information back to the school by the 5th of August on Monday. So girls, I gave you out the form that you need to fill out at camp tomorrow with our set plan. So you need to make sure you bring that along with the first page filled out so that we've got something to talk about tomorrow. Again, clearly this is something that is not a school decision solely and not always a student's decision solely. These are family decisions as well. If families have questions, then of course come to me and we will get those questions answered for you. So we've got a lot of people here today that are going to help you make some decisions. So I'm going to leave this last slide on there so you can see who you need to talk to about the different subject areas. We've got around an hour or so for you to work your way around and talk to the teachers. I wish you the very best in doing so. I'll also be at one of the tables for you to have a chat to me about specialist maths as a subject, but also any advice about the things I've been talking about today.